Okay then, so let's get started. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar on finding your purpose from inspiration to action. So this is designed to be quite an interactive or actionable webinar. So you might want a notepad and a pen nearby, or something digital if you prefer to make notes that way. Equally, if you like to draw, feel free to draw with the exercises, or maybe you just want to find a nice place to sit quietly and have room to think. Okay, then let's jump in. So, why am I here? Big question, this one, and it's one that really we've been pondering as humans since the beginning of time. Initially, the existentialists tended to think more sort of why as humans are we here? What's the role of humanity? I think as time has moved on, we've taken a slightly more individualistic view, which is why am I here? What's my purpose? What's the meaning of my life? And this shows up more in existential psychology and also positive psychology. It's really the question of what drives us, what brings us to life, and what really gives meaning in what is otherwise quite odd. I mean, life is quite a funny experience. So, you know, it makes us wonder, well, what is the point? Why are we here? So I'll start by telling you, well, who am I and why am I here? My name's Katie Ireland, and I'm an executive flourishing coach at Re-Humanise. So I work with individuals, groups, and organisations to unlock their innate human potential and really get more of what they want in life and in work. Prior to that, I spent nearly 20 years in the corporate world as a leader in STEM and marketing, and also led a startup in the DE&I space. So let's begin with one of the big questions. Well, what is purpose anyway? You hear lots of people talking about it these days. And I think one of the challenges is that there's a lot of pressure surrounding it. Sometimes it can feel as if everybody knows what their purpose is, everyone except you. And the good news is that's not true. Not everyone has figured it out. And indeed, it's something that changes as we evolve in any case. I think often it can feel like something that's quite definite, permanent, and quite binary. Either you know it or you don't, and that's simply not true. It's really about finding more meaning in every single day, and what might feel purposeful today might not resonate in a few years' time. Maybe you've changed, maybe you've evolved, and as such your purpose will evolve. And in general, the good news is anyone who seems like they've got everything figured out hasn't. That's simply not being human. We're all just trying to figure it out every day. So I want you to give yourself permission to not think of it as sort of finding this end state, but rather a fun and exciting journey towards becoming more authentic and finding something that is meaningful to you. And today, to support you on that journey, I'm going to share my 5 tips for helping you either uncover your purpose, clarify it, or really just play with this this concept. So let's jump in. So the first step is recognize the power of curiosity. I absolutely love curiosity as a value, as a behavior. I think it's just such a fundamental human behavior. It enables us to create, to innovate, but also, most importantly, it enables us to connect, because we can't connect with other people if we're not curious about them. it's also particularly powerful when it comes to purpose, because for some people, they've always had a very clear purpose. They're sort of hit with it from a young age, and they go with it, and lucky them. But for many of us, it's much more subtle. It's sort of a whisper. And I think that's where curiosity comes in, that if you follow those things that you're curious about, that's almost like your purpose whispering to you, saying, maybe this is for you. Maybe this will bring you joy. Maybe this is the thing to find out more. And what I like is that curiosity is naturally very playful, which enables you to sort of figure things out without fear or consequence, because by labeling it curiosity, then you're just trying to play with it a bit without fear and consequence, and without sort of, I suppose, a definitive goal, which enables much more exploration and freedom. So with that in mind, get ready for the first exercise that we've got today. So for this exercise, I want you to think back to your childhood or an earlier experience and ask yourself, what intrigued me? What filled me with wonder? What did I want to be? So before we do this, so normally in sort of a workshop setup, I'd allow probably sort of 5 minutes or so for you to really think about this. Today, given the structure of this webinar, I'm going to put a timer on in a minute and just do it for about 1 minute. So if you're joining me live now, I encourage you to come back later and perhaps give yourself a bit more space on this. And equally, if you're watching back at a later time, you might want to pause the video when we get to the exercises to give yourself a bit more time. What I'll recommend with any of the exercises is, where possible, try and do it like a stream of consciousness. So if you're writing down, just write down anything that comes to you. I'm obviously doing this in English. That's my native language. If English isn't your native language, it might feel more meaningful to do it in your native language. Feel free to do that. Don't worry about punctuation, grammar, anything like that. This is purely sort of getting thoughts out. So I think that's enough from me. I'm going to go ahead and put our little timer on, and then we shall give it a go. Yeah, we've got the focus music on. Okay, so 1 minute to think back to these early experiences. Okay, so I'm really curious as to what came up for you on this. So if you feel like you'd like to, please feel free to put any thoughts in the chat. For me, when I did this exercise, and in fact I wrote a little bit about it on LinkedIn recently, what did I want to be when I was younger? I wanted to be a lollipop lady. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, in the UK and perhaps other countries, I don't know, growing up, we had lollipop people, which was somebody who had like this big lollipop stick, and they worked close to schools, and they were there to help people cross the road safely, sort of going in and out of school. And they wear sort of bright yellow and orange high vis. And I always found it really funny that that was the thing that I'd picked, that I thought, okay, that's what I want to be when I grow up. But actually, when you dig a little bit deeper, it gets interesting. So what a lollipop person does is that they help people get from A to B. They provide a place of safety and care about people. And actually, that's incredibly relevant to the work I do now in coaching. You know, that's very much what it's geared to do. So I would invite you with your own answers. Of course, we love the funny ones too. What did you want to be? But look a little bit deeper and think, well, what might that have been telling me? And if it's sort of bringing stuff up, how much is that connected to what I'm doing today, or what I would like to be doing today? Maybe you're not yet. Okay, so I'm going to move us on now to step 2. Embrace your experiences. So this is about embracing the path that brought you here, both the successes and the challenges. Now, on the one hand, successes can be easier to review because they feel good. But I think often the reality is when things go well, we just don't stop to question it. We just think, well, excellent, and we just keep on going. But the reality is it can be very useful to think, okay, what worked well there? What strengths did I make use of? What might I want to do more of next time? And then equally, it's the same question for the challenges. Now, this can be more difficult, and it's important that you look back at these sorts of things when you feel able. I am certainly not suggesting reviewing things that still feel highly traumatic, trying to find learnings or reasons, unless that's useful to you. But it's about recognizing again, okay, what have I learned from this? What might I want to do differently next time? What was important to me? So if we take the experience of a burnout, for example, very challenging, and whilst trying to recover, not necessarily the time to go deeper into the feelings, unless, of course, that's helpful. But when out the other side, sort of looking back, you might think, well, what did I learn about myself? What did I learn about my boundaries? What did I learn about what gave me energy, or what took energy from me, for example? And therefore, what changes do I want to make going forward to be more in line with who I am and what I need? Similarly, with other challenges, you might think, well, what made me stand up for myself there? What made me stand up for others? Amongst all experiences, however we label them, there are learnings to be had about how we used or didn't use our strength, and importantly, the so what do we want to do next time? All of this helps you identify what's important to you, what matters, and what you want to do about it. So with that in mind, I'm going to take us to the next exercise. So all the same principles apply that I talked through in terms of stream of consciousness, coming back, giving yourself more time if it's useful. So this one, think of a challenge you faced recently, or a time when you felt stretched. How might that experience have prepared you to move forward? I'm going to set the timer again for us here. So we're going to have 1 minute on this one. Go ahead. Okay, so again, please do pop your thoughts in the chat if you'd like to share them. I'm curious what you noticed when you did that that exercise, and I wonder whether, is this something that you do regularly, that you sort of take a bit of a review and look back? Certainly, it feels at the beginning of the year there's a lot of reviews going on. The start of a new year often sort of triggers people to look back at the last year and think, okay, how was that? But what about if you did it at other times of the year, not just at the end / beginning? How might you like to factor that into your work? If it's useful for you, great, please do. If not, then this is certainly not essential. But the reason I suggest it is every review enables us to connect with the things we loved, the things that were painful, but most importantly, the things that were important. And that's the reality. Purpose is important to you. It's not something that you care about just a little. It's something that really matters. And the more you can understand yourself, the more easy it will be to identify this elusive purpose. So let's move on to our next step. This one is shifting from me to we. This one's really the core of purpose. So although I mentioned at the beginning that some of the work in this area has taken more of an individualistic view to think about, what's my purpose as opposed to what's sort of the purpose of humans. Nonetheless, purpose is absolutely a collective experience. We cannot do purpose alone. It has to be somehow connected to other people or other things. Could be nature, it could be animals, something of that sort. So making £1 billion, dollars, euros to have a really nice life is a goal, but it's arguably not a purpose because it's not connected to the collective benefit of other people. So this is about thinking, how can your talents positively impact other people? The good news with this is that it doesn't have to be groundbreaking, world-changing. You don't have to, discover cures for major illnesses, although fantastic if you do. There is still value in smaller, everyday impacts. So for me, when I was in the corporate world, I used to do a lot of work focused on well-being and mental health, sort of alongside my day jobs. And what I always said to myself when I did these things is that if I just make a positive difference to just one person in this session, so one person in an event that I was running, one person who was reading my email, then it was worth it. Yes, absolutely, I would love to positively impact an entire group and larger volumes. But for me, as long as it had a positive impact on one person, it was, it mattered and it was worth it. And I think that it's worth remembering that purpose can be quiet and can be subtle. And then it can really gain depth when we think about, how does my small piece connect with your small piece? So that, okay, alone, maybe it's a bit more subtle and quiet, but together, when we all put our purposes together, that's having a really positive collective impact on humanity, the environment, whatever it is. So to explore this a bit more, I've actually got 2 exercises for the next session. So we're going to make a start with the first one. So same principles apply, taking the time to stream of consciousness, that sort of thing. So this one, I want you to think about, what impact do you want to have on people around you? I'm going to set it up again for 1 minute. It's deliberately broad, but I want to know what comes up for you when you see that question. Okay, so how was that one? What did you notice? Did anything surprise you that came up when you thought about the impact you want to have on other people? How did it feel to see it written down, for example? These are all questions to ponder as we move on to our next exercise. So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to populate your ikigai. Now, I'm sure some of you on the call will be very familiar with this. So this is from a book by Hector Garcia and Frances Miralles, who studied this concept. It's based from a concept in Japan, specifically from the inhabitants of the island of Okinawa. And here, the inhabitants seem to live much longer on average and seem to have much healthier, happier lives. And when the authors went over there to study it, what they found is, yes, it did connect to a healthy diet, green tea, community. But in addition, there was this one core concept called ikigai that seemed to be the main driving force to creating the life that you want to lead. So what you'll see from the diagram there is ikigai is this beautiful sweet spot in the middle that combines what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. Now, normally this would absolutely take longer than 1 minute to really have a good think about these different quadrants, but I'm going to invite you to make a start again with 1 minute here to see what comes up in the different quadrants for you when you think about this. And so how was that? What did you notice? For example, where were all the items that you put in? Did you notice they're clustered in a particular area, or were they sort of quite well spread out? Now, in an ideal world, absolutely, we're looking for that sweet spot. But in reality, it's not the easiest thing to do. So I think as a first pass, what can be really useful is just to look and see, well, where's everything collected? Do I have a good spread of things? So for example, maybe you've got something, okay, that you can be paid for and you're good at in your profession, fine. But in addition, you notice you've got loads of things in the what are you good at, what do you love quadrant. Okay, so lots of passions. Or maybe, yes, you've got your profession, but you found that you've got this really important mission, something you love and the world needs. Today, maybe everything's separate, but tomorrow, how might you move things more together? You know, what steps or what first step might you take to just maybe move something one way or another so you get closer to that center of the Venn diagram? Again, feel free, if anything is coming up, to put it in the chat. It's always nice to celebrate what you're good at, what you love, indeed, what the world needs, etc. But do come back to this later and spend some time on this, because I think this one, if you give it some sort of really good time and do it as the full stream of consciousness, can bring up some useful insights for you. Okay, so now we move on to step for. Experiment and let purpose evolve. So I mentioned at the very beginning that sometimes purpose can feel full of pressure, like something you have to find, and almost that you're running behind if you don't know what it is. And the reality is that the purpose and pressure aren't very good companions. We need to get rid of the pressure. And that's where this notion of experimentation can come in really well, and actually connects quite nicely to the concept of curiosity that we started with. But I think it's this notion that purpose isn't always something you just magically find. It doesn't knock on your door and present itself to you and go, this is what you've been waiting for. It's often something that ignites slowly, that, you know, maybe catches us unawares, surprises us, or something that we need to work on over time. So this is about giving yourself permission to explore, to play, and to test. Is this something that aligns with me? Does this feel right? Is this bringing me joy? Oh, I thought I'd love this, but actually I've given it a go and it's not me. Or I thought this was going to not be me, but actually I'm really into it. You know, engage in passion projects and just see what happens. You know, think about, how do they feel? What do you learn? And then, so what? What do you want to do about it? So again, with that in mind, we're going to jump into a little exercise here. So the exercise now is to identify, I put 3 potential passion projects, because I didn't want to limit you, but arguably if there's one passion project that is sort of shouting at you that this is the one you want to give a bit more thought to, then please do. And again, you know, 1 minute might be a bit too short to get your thoughts out, but give it a go. So here we're looking for things like, these are sort of small commitments to help you test the water. So maybe this is a volunteering project. Maybe it's signing up for a group or a club. Maybe it's learning a new skill. Maybe it's joining a network at work. Whatever it might be, then yeah, feel free to get it down. So I will reset the timer again, ready to go, and go ahead. So how was that one? Again, feel free to pop these in the chat. The reason I say this is that if we have a particular goal or anything that we want to achieve, then the likelihood of it happening goes up significantly if we tell someone else, or if we write it down, sorry, and then even further if we tell someone else. So the act of writing it down in a public forum could give you the sort of drive that you need to make it happen. But the piece I'm curious about was, did you feel the excitement coming through when you wrote about this? If you didn't, chances are this isn't a passion project. Now, the reason I ask this is because, particularly at this time of year, we are faced with this notion of, what should I do for the next year? Oh, I should do this, I should do that, whatever society is telling us that we should have or not have in our lives. And so it's very easy for such things to creep in. So if you're not feeling excitement with things you just wrote, then maybe that can go in another list, and you can think about if and how you want to tackle those. These things should be something that feel like a full-bodied yes. Or maybe a yes, but a a nervousness, that's okay too. Maybe it's something that you want to, maybe you want to start acting classes and you are really excited, but you're also nervous because you haven't been on stage for many years. Whatever it is, it should have that kernel of excitement rather than expectation or necessity. But this one I think is really important. And it was very relevant for me. So the reason I'm sat here today giving this webinar is because I went to an open evening to become a personal trainer many years ago back in London. Now, I went to this open evening because I was curious. I was spending a lot of money on my personal trainer in central London. I had spent many years in the gym, so I already knew a lot. And I thought, hey, maybe I'd enjoy finding out more. So I went to this open evening and I just thought, oh my goodness, I can't do this. This is so much effort. At the time, I was a leader in the corporate world, so I had a lot going on there, and I just felt overwhelmed. I thought, no, I can't manage the personal training course. But what they offered was, rather than the level 3 personal training course, they also offered a level 2 gym instructor course. That was not as many weekends, not as high a level, so a bit more manageable. And I thought to myself, yeah, okay, I can give that a try. And so I did. I got the level 2. And then after a little while, I decided I was ready for the level 3. So then I went back and completed it. Now, during that time, whilst I really enjoyed the course, it was with lovely people, and it still serves me well today when I want to mix up my gym routine, I didn't and don't want to be a personal trainer. But the reason it was powerful is because what it taught me was that I was able to study or do other things alongside a bigger job. Something was taking up a lot of time. And so when I found a master's in positive psychology and coaching psychology, it was such an easy yes to sign up for it alongside working, because I had proven to myself that I could do it. So I had the evidence. That then led to completing the master's and working with coaching clients sort of pro bono alongside my work in the corporate world, until eventually, fast forward to today, where I do this full time. Now, I tell you this sort of long, convoluted story because if it hadn't been for that curiosity or that passion project right at the beginning, I wouldn't be here. And importantly, this isn't the end of the journey either. I'm still researching PhDs, exploring becoming a psychotherapist. There's more I want to give and more I want to grow. But that's the beauty of finding your purpose. As I've got older, it's evolved. And being able to lean into curiosity in the passion projects has enabled me to play with things and figure out what feels right for me. So I invite you to do the same in your life. Go to the open evening, do the taster class, just give it a go and see how it feels. Okay, so moving on now to our final step for uncovering your purpose. And this is to build a purpose ecosystem. So again, although I mentioned the slightly individualistic focus, we just can't do purpose alone. Now, some people are really good at this sort of thing. They get a lot of energy. So they start a new project and the first thing they think of is, who can help me? What groups can I join? How can I leverage my network? They're just real sort of natural connectors and get a lot of energy from it. Some others of us are perhaps feeling like we need to do everything ourselves and feel a bit more uncomfortable sort of asking for help. The reality is, of course, some of us are introverted, extroverted, and sort of in the spectrum in between. So there will be a difference between where you get your energy. But nonetheless, all of us could benefit from a little helping hand from time to time. So this is about thinking around, what does my purpose ecosystem look like? Where can I find people who will encourage me? That's important. Love and support me when things are tough, or celebrate when things are good. Where will people challenge me when maybe I've got a blind spot, or a gap in my knowledge, or a limiting belief? Where might I find spaces that align with my values, or where people can teach me something that I don't know? Where are the mentors and the communities that I could join? So for our final exercise, I'm going to invite you to do that and to identify your champions, mentors, groups, your purpose ecosystem. So here you might want to just write a list. So just write a list of names, or maybe you want to put your name in the middle and put a circle around it. Or if you've got a sort of a keyword or something connected to your purpose, put that in the middle and do sort of lines off, whatever feels right for you. But consider mentors, curious supporters, experts, and communities you want to join. And again, I'm going to give you 1 minute just to jot down anything that comes up for you. So now that you've got this list, I encourage you after this session to take a moment and go through the people or organizations on that list and just identify any first actions you want to take to connect with them. And that's it. Those are the 4 steps. So number 1, recognize the power of curiosity. Number 2, embrace your experiences. Number 3, shift from me to we. Number 4, experiment and let purpose evolve. And 5, build a purpose ecosystem. So in summary, there's no right or wrong way to find your purpose. And although I've written these in steps, they aren't actually sort of chronological. They're more like tips for you to lean in and use if it feels relevant, ignore if it doesn't. But hopefully, if you're sort of on the cusp of trying to figure this out, there might be a little nugget in here that enables you to just take one more step forward, or more towards embracing more of your purpose. In conclusion, purpose isn't about arriving, it's about becoming. So purpose is as vast as our potential. It's as adaptable as our imagination. It's really found in every small choice that we make every day. It's having the courage to show up and the commitment to keep moving forward. And that's it. So thank you very much for joining me today. If this has struck a chord and you'd like to take it further, then for anyone watching, feel free to make use of one free coaching session with the code purpose. I'd absolutely love to hear from you. If you have any other thoughts, my email address is there. Feel free to get in touch. So that's it. So thank you very much, and I will see you soon.